Welcome back to our 8th edition of this year's Lakeland Podcast. Who am I here with today?
Good morning. I'm Mrs. Alfano, counselor at Lakeland High School. I work with students whose last names fall in the alphabet H through O.
Okay, welcome.
Good morning, Mrs. Carlson, letters P through Z.
Good morning, Miss Sims, and I work with students with the last name A through G.
All right, and my name is Austin Burkassi, and I'm here with...
Emery Sladen.
And we're just going to ask you guys some questions about scheduling, what it's like to be a counselor, all that. So let's start out. What is the biggest academic mistake students can make in high school? And you guys have an answer for this, you can go.
I don't know if it's the biggest mistake, but I would say one slip up I see students making, in particular ninth graders, is waiting to get invested in the studying process. So I hear students say sometimes, well, I was listening to some of the lecture like in September and October, but I wasn't, fully dialed in, or I wasn't regularly studying, doing my homework. So I think it's important for students, like I said, in particular ninth graders, to understand that school starts on the first day, and it's important to be dialed in because it's so much more difficult to play catch up all semester.
I would also say that sometimes kids are like, they didn't turn on freshman year, but they started getting it maybe sophomore year, maybe junior year. It's never too late. Doesn't mean you can't go to college, doesn't mean you can't go to the college you want to go to. You still have time to bring your GPA up. You can explain things on your essays for colleges. So don't just turn off because, I did bad ninth grade. No, you have time to bring it up.
I would say, to add on to that, one of the biggest academic mistakes I see is just students overwhelming themselves with their class load right off Jump Street. And then that kind of sets the tone for them. It kind of decreases their confidence, thinking that they can't do it. So just kind of making sure that they have a equal load for classes.
And kind of going off of that, what do you guys feel like is some advice you'd give to students who feel like they kind of need to be perfect or like they can't mess up? What would you guys say to them?
When you mess up, that's your best lessons, right? And you take those lessons and you grow from them. If you don't grow from them, okay, yeah, that is a mess up. But this is where you explain in the college essay, this is what happened, I learned from it, and this is where I am now. And look at my GPA and look at my transcript, see how it's changed. So, no, I think mistakes are a good thing. You learn from them.
Yeah, I think mistakes are growth, right? And if no one is perfect, everyone is going to make mistakes, and learning from them, growing, and making it a life experience is important too.
Yeah, I would just lastly add on, I try and emphasize to students, there is no perfect. Everybody's fallible. And one of the greatest lessons you're going to learn in life is to not look around and compare yourself and try and be perfect in comparison to your peers. Try and look inward. What's important to you? What do you value? What are you really trying to get out of your high school experience? So try and keep looking at what your needs are and not what others want.
This one is more or less about academics, but how you guys think how important extracurriculars are compared to academics?
So I think extracurriculars are definitely important, maybe just as much as academics. Getting involved with the school, getting that connection, tailoring your extracurriculars to kind of what your interests are, keeps you connected with the school, which in turn can help your academics being involved with everything at school.
I would also say, though, colleges aren't looking, if that's your plan, I shouldn't just say colleges, but aren't just looking for you to be involved in a bazillion different activities, right? They want to see you involved in a certain activities that maybe like you love, band, sports, whatever it is, and academics. It's the two need to marry together. One, you can't be heavy on one or the other because you're going to stress out, and then that's going to affect your academics. And this is high school. When you get to college, it's a whole nother level. So enjoy your high school years. Do things that you want to do. Don't overdo, but also don't just putz around either. Some kids have to stay home. They have to work. They have to watch their brother and sister. That's important. Those are outside of school's life they have to do. That's a job. So colleges get that. Other work employees get that too. So just talk to that when you're out there. But academics obviously is very important. And if you're not connected to the school, you're not going to do as well at school because you're going to hate coming here. You need to find your friend group. You need to get connected in order to do well academically. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, there's very few kids who, the sole purpose of loving and coming to school every day is my 6 academics. Like that. There's very few kids who say that's the whole reason I get out in the morning. I cannot wait to get to school and study. So having something else in your life, be it band, theater, art, sports, DECA, whatever, is important. Like you said, to round out that experience, to make connections, to meet kids that maybe aren't in your direct friend group, and to just expand your network of people is so great. And it's going to round out your high school experience and hopefully make it an enjoyable thing that you want to come to every day. And then lastly, I would just say having those extracurriculars is going to help students manage their day better. I know I have to do whatever after school from this time frame. So I'm going to set myself up to decide, well, when am I going to study? When am I going to eat dinner? When am I going to hang out with my friends? So it helps you schedule your day a little bit better.
Yeah, and then you learn that for when you're done with high school, right? So whatever you're doing after high school, that helps.
This kind of goes off what you just said, so it might be a piece of advice. But you guys have a piece of advice that students can use to balance out their school, sports, work, and social life?
I think one thing is, I think sometimes kids really don't sort of map it out, put it on paper. Am I taking on too much before I decide to add this next thing? So to literally write it down, look at your day. If I feel like I don't know how to do it all, take a piece of paper, map out Monday through Sunday. What's my week going to look like? How am I going to fit it all in? And then be honest and say, maybe there is something that I can't be doing right now. Maybe I can delay it till the summer. But I think, just having a physical layout of your week.
I love that because sometimes it is overwhelming until you map it out, right? So when you map it out, you're like, oh, I can do this. And that's even with homework or work at school, same thing, you're overwhelmed. And you sit down and really map it out, you're like, I can do this. So
I think to add on to that too is just to remember to be flexible, because you can map it out, but something happens, right? We'd all have experienced something that can derail that map. So just know that the map is great, but if something happens, to shift and be flexible so you don't get overwhelmed too.
Okay. And as a school counselor, what does a typical average day really look like for you guys?
A whole lot of everything. I would say a typical day is meeting with students for different needs, whether it be academic, emotional, social. And then, of course, we have the boring paperwork part of our job that we have to also do, like every other job. And then I think the biggest part of my day is just meeting with kids in general, having those conversations. I do not like the paperwork part of my job. I much prefer the social and working with the kids.
I feel like every day is different. Yeah. I mean, that's what I love. I met different students with different needs. So to me, every day is different. Obviously, it's the same. Yeah, you got to do your emails, you got to do your paperwork. But that's what I love about the job, and I love the people I work with. So that makes it fun.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. Every day is going to look a little different. And in this line of work, you're definitely going to have to be flexible. You might show up at work thinking you're going to accomplish one thing that day, and then a student might get in crisis or whatever the need is, and you're going to have to pivot and focus on something different than you thought you were walking into. What I like about this job is it's sort of seasonal, where we're always working on the next big thing, and you really have to spend a lot of time on that one thing, and then you move to the next. So right now, we're getting ready to move into the end of the semester. We're going to work with students on preparing for final exams. If the student didn't have a good outcome on their class, working with them to make changes for second semester. Then we're going to move into scheduling for next year, then AP testing. So like I said, it's always one big thing, and then you sort of move to the next. So I like that about the job.
It's nice having summer break. Yes, it is. Very much.
All right, and you guys obviously give a lot of advice to students, but what is some advice that you guys wish that you had while you were in high school?
I always think to myself, I had a girlfriend that her household told her there's no way you're ever going to get into whatever it was, Western, let's say. And so she made it her mission to get into Western. She ended up being a superintendent of schools. And I just always think that in my head. I will never tell a student you can't do it, because you can do anything you put your mind to. So that's my big.
You know, I think about this at every age level, including high school, and that is sort of show up for your own life. This experience is for you, this high school experience. So attendance is important. Paying attention in class, getting the most I can out of this, connecting with my teachers. Do your part in this experience, because ultimately this is your life. So I think about that for every age level. Just show up and get the most out of every experience.
Yeah, I think if I had to give a piece of advice to myself when I was in high school, it would be definitely more live in the moment. I was much more of that academic rigor student who just took as many classes as she could and really focused in on that. And I feel like I probably missed out a lot more on that extracurricular social experience. So definitely just live in the moment, enjoy the 4 years, because you guys have so much time for adult life and your high school is so short. So
No. Yeah, like don't spend so much time. Like a lot of kids work, and I know some kids have to work, but you guys are gonna work the rest of your life. Enjoy your experience.
All right, that is all the questions we have for you guys. If you have anything to add or want to let kids know about scheduling for next semester, you can do that right now. If not,
I would just say, hey, good luck to the students. Next week, final exams are Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So good luck to everybody. And then a couple weeks into the semester, we'll start with scheduling presentations. You start with the juniors. So get ready to show up for your own life and start thinking about the classes you want for next school year.
All right, pay attention.
thank you guys so much, Lakeland students. Have a great day.